nhà ai được quê được tên này
When I was a kid, I felt machines were more reliable than people, and I decided I wanted to be an engineer, and so that's what I did. I did a training in the car industry of all places.
I used to have a career in a corporate environment, and I used to have lots of spare time and spare money, and I lived in a place where there was a trance scene, and so I used to go to parties, and there came a point, I guess, when I just found out something changed in me, and I was looking for more, and I was searching for more, but I didn't know what, and then a massive change happened in my life.
When I was 12, I had dreams where two specific ancestors came to me and said in me was the knowledge of my forefathers, and you came to make it live twice. And however weird that sounds, like, that's sort of what I do.
I landed in a magnificent midlife crisis at the very classic late 30s, going into 40. I managed to get the business taken over. I ran to a place I couldn't go anymore. I had to stop. I managed to get the place taken over so that it continued okay, and I set out to repair myself, quite literally, through all sorts. Well, through psychotherapy type experiences and yoga and things like that. And circumstances led me to San Francisco.
In a space of 1 week, I ended a 6.5-year relationship that really wasn't very healthy, and I went away for the weekend to kind of get myself together. And while I was away, he phoned and said, "Oh, your house has just been broken into," and I was like, "Well," so in 1 week I had the loss of all my dreams. I had the loss of the sense of security at home, and then the day I got back, I found my mum had gone into a coma really unexpectedly, and she died 2 days later. And I was with her when they put the machines off, and she died. And so in 8 days, everything that was my life didn't exist anymore.
Originally, when I was like young, me grandma and my parents just thought I was well off the wall, as you can imagine. And "You'll bring the devil up, you'll bring the devil up." Will I? Oh good. You know, they say things like that. "You'll bring the devil up in your bedroom." And when people were going out doing stuff and like they were playing football and all that, I had like altars set up in my bedroom, and they thought I was fucking loopy.
In San Francisco, you can do workshops on just about anything at almost any time of day. So I was a workshop junkie, and then that culminated in starting a degree course, MA in holistic psychology.
Got rid of all my possessions, left my career, got rid of everything, stripped down just to me, to see who I was, and went off travelling. And part of that was ending up going back to South Africa and going on a vision quest. This is an 11-day process, and you have some preparation, and then you have 4 days and nights fasting alone in the wilderness, and crying for a vision of your life. And during that, I found I was going to be a healer. I had my first contact with spirits.
Power and knowledge and luck is passed down through family lines over time. So I think what I found is it's remembering. I think a lot of the time I remember, you know, I experience, and then when I've done it, I remember. And it's like, yeah, right, yeah, I remember that. That's good. And I think that's what people are doing now, like, they're remembering. You know, people are remembering what's in there. It's in there already, because I mean, originally they said, in you is the knowledge of your forefathers. You know, it's time to, can you remember it? You know, do something with it.
I came back to England and I set up to do play, dance, drama, daft games, voice, a whole mixture of things to free the spirit, liberate the magical child. And over a few years, quite spontaneously, it became more and more shamanic until it was. An experience of timelessness, of different reality, of alternate reality, of magic moments, we can call them. And we've all had them. We have them as kids.
For me, a shamanic experience would be about being in an altered state of awareness where you can access other realities and then bring the information and healing back here for yourself or for the land, for other people.
It's a good metaphor is the dance, because in the dance we start off with our usual ego stuff, shyness, inhibition, bravado, showing off, all that sort of thing, and get past that. The dance and the dancer become one. A little further and the dance dances the dancer, and in the ultimate, the dancer oneself disappears and only dancing is left. And it's that place, the place where oneself disappears. Happiness is something, the deepest happiness is something we know we just had.
I've just done a workshop this morning, and the sort of initial workshop is, we always start off in the forest that covered this land, and then down the forest is a pathway that's been trod by Saith folk who've travelled the distance over thousands of years, and you carry on down the pathway a long way right through the forest, and you get to a massive yew grove. As you get there, everything gets older, and in the middle's the world tree, Yggdrasil or Irminsul, whichever name you want to choose, both mean the same thing really. And then from there, like, you can journey down to Helheim, Svartalfheim, or above to Ljosalfheim or Asgard. And then there's like different places as you move out through the forest. There's a few places out in the forest that you can get to, various different places you can journey to just by travelling out through the forest, you know, without even going up the tree or down the tree. And what I usually start off with is I teach people to journey to what's called a Frithgarth. And originally a Frithgarth was an area of land or, you know, outside that was set aside as a kind of place of peace, in a way, a harmony of peace. And people would go there. It might be around some sacred stones or a river or a well or some trees or something, a grove, and then no one would have any trouble there. You had to take your shoes off, put your weapons outside, you couldn't fight, you go to the bog in there, anything like that. And it was like a peaceful place within a really sort of harsh climate, you know, when tribes and people were fighting. Because as you get deeper and deeper, it gets more involved and more intense, and there are places like, usually when people are starting off, they don't go to these places, but when you go looking for bits of souls and things like that, you can go to some really dark and full on, like, intense places, you know. So it's nice for people, just in case, to start off in a safe space, really.
Being in a place where I can move out of my head and out of my ego and out of the identity that makes me think that I am this body and this personality and these thoughts and feelings, into who I really am, which is spirit. And in that place, know that there isn't any separation between me and anything else, and that there is God, whether you want to call it divine force or creative force or God or creator, doesn't matter, but that there is that force and that I am it. It's in me and it flows through everything.
And it's the experience that actually we don't exist in the way we think we do. We're part of the great is, the great now, the great oneness that simply is. And we have this temporary idea that we're an individual, I, me, and my body, and my this, my that, my the other. And that is like a container, but what really is spirit functioning through. And sometimes we touch that place, that magical place. So yes, to answer your question properly, no, it's you can talk about it, but you can't talk it. No, it's beyond words.
kita, sungguh kita.
Sama lagi sama.
Sama ka sa. Basta tata sama ka sa.
Scientifically, the beat of the drum helps your brain waves switch from an alpha state to a theta state. The theta state's where is the state you are in when you are going to a trance or when you're dreaming or in your deep creative states. So the vibration of the drum beat actually helps you to switch to theta state, so it helps you to switch really quickly from a normal relaxed state into a really deep state for journeying.
Mainly when I take people to be safe, I use a drum. I've had some journeys that have been absolute earth-shattering, soul-shattering, and personality and self-shattering. And I've been places where I've been changed in sort of ways that anyone with any fucking sense probably wouldn't choose to be changed, because it totally twists your world on its head. You know, and anyone, if you thought about it before, you might think, yeah, the change seems really good, but I don't ever want to go through all that. You know, so the journey, the whole path of it is like a journey in itself, and you change. I've just been saying this to someone now, that as I've got older, I think it's grounded itself. It's like all the bits of shit and the annoying things about yourself have been twisted out and thrown out from journeys and experiences, and as you get older, you become more grounded in it. So there's less bits that you need to throw away. In the old English tradition, we have lots of different plants sort of work. One of the ones called Lubkraft is to do with working with plants of power, and I've got plants from all over the world. I was saying earlier, like, I didn't choose to have plants from all over the world. I was ill for a while, and nothing seemed to get rid of it. And a plant came into my life, and it changed everything. And then another plant came in, and then that was like, and then another and another and another. And everywhere I went, people were I went to camps and people were like presenting me with plants, and plants were coming in. Oh, it's just crazy. So I ended up with all these plants from all over the world, even though I practice native English tradition. But I don't see them, I don't like look at them as though from that sort of angle, because I work with them within my own tradition and what I do, and there are actual plants that we had in our tradition. Like there's all the witching, what people might call these days the hexing herbs or the witching herbs and things like that, like belladonna and black nightshade, mandrake, hemlock, hellebore, henbane. There's all those sort of plants, and then there's like your psilocybin mushrooms that you get in the fields, you know, which are natural to this place. And then there's Amanita muscaria, fly agaric, which I like the fly agaric. A lot of people use them, but the way you work, like working with plants, is quite specific, and like to gain power from them, whatever your power is, you've got to have the right approach and make it like a relationship with the plant spirit, if you will, rather than just necking a few mushrooms and seeing what happens. It's a total different path, you know, and a total different experience, and a total different outcome. You get a total different thing from that as well.
When I was in the trance scene, I had recreational experience of psychotropic plants, and I found that because I didn't have a framework for the experiences at the time, that a lot of the experiences, they're open doorways to other realities, but once you get there, it's almost as if the volume is cranked up so high that you can't make sense of it, and everything happens so fast, and you're kind of carried along by the spirit of the plant.
And if you work with them in a real way, if you work with the plants, like they don't want to harm you. Half the time when people get harmed by plants, and this is from the mouth of the plant anyway, half of the time when they get harmed by the plant, it's because the plant gets so excited about the company they've got, the new friend they've made, they don't realise how much you can take or can't take.
And the idea of the shop was to be an expression of our thanks to the plants that help us through this life. I felt there's a need to sort of extend that knowledge that has been lost, and medical science and mainstream tries to make us ignore these facts, and they've done this since time immemorial. I mean, people doing my kind of work 500 years ago would have been burnt as witches or heretics. You know, nowadays we're just shunned as outsiders, but it's coming more to the knowledge, especially in this millennium, that these herbs are put on this planet to help us. These plants, they're not sort of against why we're here, they're why we're here, and live in symbiosis with us. The centre of this shop is the sort of ancient traditional art of plant shamanism. Now a shaman that uses plants is one that knows what these plants are, how to prepare them and use them safely, and also knows when to use them, because different plants can obviously be used for different things, but the combination is a difficult thing. Now, for an example, an ayahuasca brew, which is a well-known shamanic brew from South America, contain up to about 100 different rainforest plants, and that's all dependent on the particular shaman and the particular use that the shaman's putting the brew to. You can go from a very light brew to something that's a really psychedelic, in touch with God, life-changing experience. Now, ayahuasca means vine of the soul or vine of the dead. Now, it's called that because not that you're going to die from it, but they use it to contact their ancestors. Now, this vine grows in abundance in the South American or in the Amazon, and it's sort of like a big vine that you'd swing on, right? But there's lots of different vines, so you have to know the right one. Now, the story goes that the indigenous people saw the jaguar chewing the leaves of this vine, and then it seemed to hone up the hunting skills. That's why they tried it. And the plants themselves and the whole subject is called entheobotany. And that entheo means in touch with God. So this is what it is. The plants actually is a direct link between us as a physical being and the spiritual. Now, when you give somebody a direct link between the physical and the spiritual, that takes away the need for middlemen or middlewomen. That will be the priests and the people that are very powerful within society, and they don't want that power removed. And that's why it's always been persecuted for people who have a direct contact with God, because you don't need the church, you don't need religion, you don't need all this. You just are.
Now, I think particularly at the moment, the reason people want to become shamans is a feeling of disconnection from nature in a very industrialized cyber age. People feel disconnected from nature and feel that their lives in some way don't have the same sort of meaning that they once did, because our society has become increasingly technologically orientated, capitalistic and atheistic. So people are wanting to re-enchant their lives with ideas of spirits, ancient gods and so on.
We in the West are, in the main, uniquely fucked up, if I can use that word, uniquely screwed up. The Western world is like a giant experiment in singularity, in living alone, in small families. Whatever next, I don't know how we can get any more solo. You go back to the old cultures and it was multi-generational families, it was large groups, and of course it's still like that if you go to indigenous cultures. And they view us as crazy because so many of us live alone.
Speaking more specifically about shamans, I think that there is also a need for greater control over one's life. So in some ways, contemporary shamanism is related to self-help work and human potential, and the way people don't feel that they are in control of their lives and do feel that there is an emerging police state, problems with government and so on. Where does the individual have control of their life anymore? And shamanism does give you direct engagement with the spirit world. There is no intermediary, and that can be an empowering thing.
It brings back something we've lost, something that other religious, spiritual, whatever you want to call it, paths have kicked out of the people, if you will, I think, over time. It brings back that sort of sense of self, and that you can be on your spiritual path, that it's your path and not somebody else's, not what someone else is telling you should do, and also it's something you live. You don't do it, like I don't do shamanism, I live it. It's my life, you know. I sleep, dream, eat, everything it. That's what you do you know what I mean? And when you get that sort of, it gives you something new to your life. You live a magical life, that's what I think anyway, you know. Life's magic, it's not just boring same old things again, you know. It's raining, you know what I mean? Look, different feel takes you to a different place.
A real sense that I'm made of energy, and that everything's made of energy, and I don't feel like I'm colourblind, living in a colourful world anymore, or I just feel like this whole world around me is happening. The energy is working anyway. Other beings are there anyway, and for the first time, I can actually open a dialogue with them. I can have a relationship.
And it does. It realigns you, I think. You know, because somewhere along the line, we're sort of ancestors. If you imagine people growing and learning with the land, with each other, the cultures, and you're going along, and this big thing comes in the middle, like wham, and pushes everything out. When you get back into your own cultural shamanic traditions or spiritual traditions, it starts realigning everything again, and you get a more sense of the self, more sense of the land and the ancestors and your life as a whole, you know.
Given that if we say that the way to approach shamans is in their cultural context, the obvious thing which comes through when we look at indigenous shamans is that their practices are very much community-based. That is all very different from the sort of society we have in the West, consumerist, individually orientated, and more or less capitalist, where there is an emphasis on consumer culture. So what we see in contemporary shamanism in the UK and the rest of Euro-America is an emphasis on workshop practices, paying your money in order to get shamanic knowledge. You pay your £100, you go to a core shamanism workshop, you learn shamanism, and then what?
I've been doing it for 20 years, but in the form of workshops. That's the way it can function. And many other people do the same and run trips. We've run trips to Peru, Mexico, and it functions here. It does function now, but it functions in a different form, in a form that it can in the society we've got. No, the old way won't work because it suited the culture as it then was. So we have to have other ways. So we found them.
We need to make sure that we embrace the diversity of contemporary shamanism in Britain, and critics, academic critics included, have until recently been all too quick to make off-the-cuff statements about neo-shamans, to deride contemporary practices as inauthentic and very much unlike indigenous shamanism. I'm not sure that's entirely true when we look at the broader picture and the number of different practitioners and groups that there are. A good example would be Runic John. John very much works with members of a community. Again, in some ways that's a ephemeral thing, in that John goes to festivals, puts up his bender and does healings and so on from that, and people will come to him for shamanic healing. But that's still a community effort in that time and place.
Coming from Cusco, from Peru, I am a shaman, going to make one ritual, antique ritual, ancestral ritual, que es an antique therapy for learn que it's possible to change the famous karma, the famous destiny is possible to change. It's possible to change the destiny that people wanted. Everybody have the same potential. Everybody is not only part of the universe, it's the universe. It's possible to take out this potential. This is one therapy, antique therapy, who is possible to use the more power to have in the universe, the heart, the honesty, the love, the conviction. I'm going to read a fire, okay? Compasión. Hum, hum. need to see something more. What's going on in your life? Fly with me to the big universe, porque you are part of the universe. You are the universe. You are the lover. You are the love. You are the fragrance. You are the flower. It's moment to open the wings of your heart, the wings of your love. Let it go the light. Let it go the light to the past, to the river, to the ocean. Let it go the light. Everything is impermanent. Now is moment to live. Now is eternity. Now is moment to live free. To go to the victory, to the real victory. Let go, sir. How do you feel? Good? Yeah?
Woken up, you know? You
Inside.
feel awake. You
Yeah.
feel awake.
Verde, verde la montaña, verde, verde,